Today's topic is Ask Dr. Nina, how do I turn sabotage into success? So the first week of every month, I do an Ask Dr. Nina show in which I take questions from listeners and answer them. And here are some questions that listeners have sent in. You will recognize a theme. Why do I keep sabotaging my progress every time I start to do well? Why do I always ruin my diet after a few days of doing great? How come when I'm stressed, I end up binge eating and undoing all my hard work, even though I know it's the wrong thing to do? Why do I turn to food for comfort, even though I know it's sabotaging my goals? So as you can see, self-sabotage is so common and so frustrating, and it can affect so many aspects of your life, from your eating habits to your personal life, your professional life. It's pervasive. But why do we do it? What is self-sabotage all about? Understanding the underlying reasons behind self-sabotage, that is the first step to breaking free from this destructive cycle, doing and undoing. So today I'm going to explore the hidden motivations and fears that drive self-sabotage, and I'm going to give you some strategies to overcome it, because here's the good news. With the right strategies, with the right support, you can liberate yourself from this and transform your relationship with food and other areas of your life. So let's look at why you undermine your own efforts to change, because again, you know what you know, but it's not logical, it's psychological. And again, I'm going to show you how to transform these self-defeating behaviors into opportunities for growth and healing. So first, let's talk about recognizing self-sabotaging. It might seem obvious what self-sabotage means, but I want to take a moment to define it, because with emotional eating and binge eating, self-sabotage can take many forms. It can mean starting a new diet or a meal plan. Oh, by the way, a meal plan is often code word for diet. Starting a new diet only to abandon it within a few days or weeks or even months. Buying trigger foods for some, or what you consider trigger foods, forbidden foods maybe, for someone else. Like, oh, these donuts, they're not for me, they're for the kids. But somehow you end up eating them all by yourself. Can you relate? I know so many people who've said, yeah, I went and I got these donuts for the kids, and by the time I got home, they were gone. Or, substitute something else. Cookies, ice cream, whatever. You get it for someone else, but somehow it ends up being for you. Eating in secret, kind of, because that creates shame, which then leads to more binge eating. Promising yourself you're going to start eating healthy tomorrow, or eating intuitively tomorrow, but then you never follow through. Sabotage yourself. Making excuses for why you can't stick to your goals. I'm too busy. It's too hard. It's too difficult. I don't have time. Things like that. Or deliberately binging before starting a new diet as kind of a last hurrah. That's the Last Supper mentality. I'm going to have this. This is the last time I can have, you name it, pizza. So I'm going to have all the pizza tonight, and all the other things I'm not going to be able to have until I am on this diet and depriving myself for weeks, months. So I might as well have it all now. Or even skipping meals or restricting during the day, which leads to binge eating at night. So creating change means first reflecting on your patterns. How do you tend to get in your own way when it comes to your eating habits and health goals? What behaviors or thought patterns seem to be derailing your efforts? For example, you might notice that you always seem to binge or emotionally eat right before an important event, or maybe something where you want to look your best. I've heard many people say they end up binging before a date or before a presentation or something like that. Or maybe you start eating whenever things start going well in your life, almost like there's a fear of happiness. I'll get to that later. By becoming aware of your very specific, unique to you, self-sabotaging tendencies, you can be better equipped to catch yourself and start making different choices. And next, let's look at uncovering the fears behind your eating behaviors. Self-sabotage, it stems from fears and anxieties that we often are not consciously aware of. So when it comes to emotional eating and binge eating, any kind of destructive, unhappy, unhealthy relationship with food, here are some common fears that I see. One is fear of deprivation, worrying that you're never going to be allowed to eat the things that you like. You're always going to have to live on unpalatable, boring diet food, and fearing that you're going to be deprived can lead to sabotage. Fear of losing your coping mechanism, anxiety about not being able to turn to food for comfort. Remember, binge eating is a frenemy. It is a coping strategy. It is not an addiction. It is not about willpower or control. It is a way of coping, a negative coping strategy, to be sure, but it is a frenemy. It does something for you. It also hurts you. So it helps you feel comforted. It helps you self-soothe. It distracts you. You're thinking about food and your weight and you're beating yourself up over all of those things. Guess what you're not thinking about? Something that is uncomfortable to think about, whatever that is. So there could be anxiety about losing your coping strategy. Also, another fear behind your eating habits, another fear that leads to sabotage is fear of being seen. Worried about attracting unwanted attention if you lose weight. This is very common with people who have been objectified or have suffered sexual abuse or molestation of some kind. This idea that they're going to be perceived as a thing and not a person can lead them to sabotage themselves. Start looking good, start catching people's eyes, and it freaks you out because, that attention gets associated with danger of some kind. Also, fear of vulnerability, anxiety about being hurt if you truly allow yourself to be known by others and connect with them deeply, which you think you may be more likely to do if you're at a lower weight. So the idea is somehow being heavier keeps you safe from the world. And so if you lose weight, you lose your safety and you become vulnerable to hurtful situations. Also, fear of success, which people say, what do you mean fear of success? I just want to be successful. I want to stop binging. I want to lose weight. What are you telling me? I'm not afraid at all. Well, consciously, you're not afraid. But maybe there's some part of you that is afraid that if you do succeed, then there will be more expectations on you. Then you will feel like you have to maintain it. Somehow there's this when then, when I lose weight, then. And the then is always put off. But what if you lose weight and then you have these expectations of yourself and you don't think that you can succeed at them? Fear of success, also fear of failure, anxiety about losing weight and then not being able to keep it off, failing at maintaining that weight loss, and fear of happiness. So just like fear of success, people say, what do you mean fear of happiness? I just want to be happy. And when I stop binging and when I get to that perfect number on the scale, I am going to be so happy. Yeah, that's true logically and consciously. But what about psychologically and unconsciously? Maybe you have a fear of the rug being pulled out from underneath you. Like if you get too happy, something bad is going to happen. The other shoe will drop. It's going to be too good to be true. Something will happen. Or somehow you're not allowed to feel too good, whatever too good is. There could be these unconscious fears that may cause you to sabotage yourself. And if you are the the agent of destruction, right? If you're the one doing it to yourself, it's not going to come out of the blue. If you're the one choosing to binge again, then you know that your failure is in your hands, or you know that the bad thing that's happening in your life is because of you. There could be a hidden fear that if you feel happy, something from out of the blue is going to come down and take it away from you. So it's almost like a sense of mastery if you're the agent of badness. That makes sense. So these fears are intense, right? And we can unconsciously protect ourselves by staying in this cycle that is familiar. Someone with a fear of vulnerability might binge to maintain their weight as a form of protection. Someone with a fear of success sabotage their diet to avoid maintaining the fear of not being able to maintain weight loss. So reflect on which of these fears resonate with you. What are you really afraid of? And what is the worst that could happen if you allowed yourself to feel good? What is the worst that can happen? A third strategy is to identify the internal conflicts that you have around food, your body, your life, all the things. Sometimes a part of us wants to change, wants to be healthy, wants to lose weight, wants to feel good, wants to stop thinking about food 24/7. You desperately want that consciously. But another part sabotages and resists. So here are some common conflicts. Again, there's overlap between everything that I'm talking about, but like wanting to lose weight, but fearing that you will lose the protection or change your identity in some ways. I remember I treated a young girl. I don't see teenagers anymore, but back in the day I did. And she was 13 or 14 years old, and she was significantly overweight, maybe 200 pounds overweight, really, really overweight. And one day she said that she was afraid that if she lost weight, she would somehow lose herself and become a different person. And that's very true. Again, what you logically know I'm going to be the same person that I am. The inside me is not related to my body. That's what you logically know. But there could be another part of you psychologically that fears that by losing weight, you lose your identity. Or you lose the fantasy you that you think exists if you lost weight. For example, we all have an idea of, when we lose weight, we're going to look like that. Only we lose weight and we don't often look like the picture we have in our head. One woman said to me that she realized that I think she was in her 50s, and she said she realized, somehow she thought that when she lost weight, she would look like she was 35 again the last time she was at that weight. But she didn't. She looked like the 50-something-year-old her who had lost weight, and that was not the ideal that she thought. As long as you have the fantasy that you could possibly reach if you just do XYZ, then you don't have to face up to the reality, because fantasies are always better than reality. Again, one part of you wants to be healthy, wants to take care of yourself, wants to feel good in your body, wants to wear the cute clothes, wants to feel confident with other people. And another part of you doesn't want to give up binging because you don't have a way of self-soothing, or you just don't have another way of coping. Wanting freedom from food obsession. Part of you totally doesn't want to think about this all the time. Not only do you want to stop binging and lose weight, and not everybody who binges needs to lose weight or wants to lose weight, P.S. But let's say you do. You want to stop binging and lose weight. And stop thinking about food all the time. Because most people say it's not just the what they're eating. It's not just the behavior. It's the thinking about it all the time. It's the waking up and thinking about how they're going to be good. How are you going to be good that day? And thinking about it all day long and wondering, if you're eating in front of people, what are they thinking? And being sure to order the salad so they don't think that you should be eating something other than a salad. And then at night, going back and thinking about your whole day. Were you good? Were you bad? Vowing to be better tomorrow. Oh, all the things. It's exhausting. So wanting to stop all of these thoughts, but afraid of what else they may think about. You might, if you're not thinking about food all the time, what might be on your mind? Maybe there's a dissatisfaction in some part of your life, a relationship or other areas of your life that you're not thinking about if you're so focused on food, weight, body image, all the things. So identifying, what are your conflicts? A part of you wants this, but another part of you doesn't. It's a wish-fear conflict. A wish to be healthy, to lose weight, to feel good in your body, good and comfortable in your skin, in your life, and a fear of some kind. So get clarity on what is that fear? What are you afraid of if you get what you want? What then? And these things that I mentioned will really help you get clarity on that. Also, really understand the purpose of emotional eating and binge eating. One reason, as you could see, that self-sabotage is so pervasive is that binge eating and emotional eating serves a purpose, even if that purpose is not immediately obvious to you. And when it comes to emotional eating, binge eating, any kind of behavior that you want to change, but you can't, it's usually because there is some secondary purpose, sometimes called a secondary gain, to the behavior. So when with food, it's numbing uncomfortable emotions. If you're binging, you're numbing uncomfortable emotions. You're not feeling those uncomfortable emotions. It's giving that sense of comfort or relief from whatever is going on. That if you don't binge and you don't know how to comfort yourself, that's really hard to give up. It helps you avoid dealing with uncomfortable or challenging situations or relationships. It also maintains a familiar identity or role. As one person said, she's like, as long as I'm the nice fat friend, I don't have any issues with everybody. Like in her friend group, these two were always fighting, those two were always fighting, but everyone came to her and talked with her because she was the nice, safe, fat friend, as she put it again, that didn't have any needs or wants and was just there for everybody else. So she took care of everybody and food took care of her. So as long as she was binging and heavy, there was like that safety. She was afraid that if she started expressing any needs or lost weight, people might be jealous. They might have an issue with her because her friend group, they're always bickering. Something was always going on. And she thought, well, that's going to happen to her too if she lost weight. Also, rebelling against diet culture or societal pressure to be thin. That's another reason for sabotage, right? Oh, you want me to be thin? Or, diet culture or familial, like in your family. A lot of people have parents who give them the message of somehow we're going to like you better if you're thinner. They don't overtly say that, but maybe they covertly say that. Bribing people to lose weight or favoring the thinner sibling or something like that. Sometimes it's a rebellion and a test, right? Are these people going to give you unconditional love? Do they really love you? Or is it conditional? Are they going to love you because of your weight? So there can be a part of you that doesn't want to challenge that, doesn't want to give them the satisfaction. Also, displacement. That means taking like lack of control or certain feelings in one area of your life and displacing them into a different part of your life, namely food. For example, it is easier to be angry at yourself for what you ate and what you weigh than it is to be angry with a partner or a friend or a child or someone in your life who you also care about. So consider what benefits you are getting from binge eating. Because even though it's ultimately harmful to your spirit, to your body, et cetera, it is doing something for you. It is a frenemy. That means it is a friend. It is helping you in some way, even though it's also hurting you. So the more that you can figure out how is it being a friend and find new ways of being a friend to yourself, or how are you protecting yourself with this behavior, and find new ways of protecting yourself, then you can relinquish binge eating. Again, it's also a coping strategy that helps you deal with stress, loneliness, boredom, emptiness, whatever. And be really curious. Binge eating is not just a behavior. It is an emotional response. It comes from emotional response. It is a solution to a problem. It is not the problem. It is a solution. Again, it's a solution to stress. It's a solution to conflict. It's a solution to emptiness or something emotional that you don't want to feel. It helps you. It is a solution. So recognize that fact as well as acknowledging the harm that it does. Because by recognizing the purpose behind binge eating and emotional eating, that can help you find healthier ways to meet those same underlying problems or needs. Also, and this is important, reframe the negative self-talk about food and your body. The way we talk to ourselves has a huge impact on our actions. Thoughts lead to feelings, lead to behavior. So if you have a thought of, "Oh, I'm disgusting," you're going to feel terrible, and then you're going to eat just to comfort yourself or get away from your own mean voice. So this negative self-talk, or I shouldn't eat that. It's also negative talk, negative food talk. Don't should on yourself. So really pay attention to your inner dialogue and practice identifying those self-defeating thoughts, which are going to make you feel bad, if you feel bad and you don't have any other way to feel better other than food, guess what? You're going to eat. When you find new ways of coping with those feelings, you're not going to use food for comfort or any of the things. So negative self-talk is about changing the thoughts that lead to those feelings. So here are some examples. A negative thought is, "I have no willpower. I will always be a binge eater." No, here's the reframe. "I am learning to better understand myself and understand the purpose of my eating behaviors. And I am working really hard to develop new ways of coping. And every step that I take is progress. And I'm going to be curious, not critical, about why I am binging instead of what I am eating." It is not about willpower. It is about why power. I'm going to stay curious. Another example, adding to what I just said before, "I'm so disgusting. I don't deserve to feel happy. I am disgusting." Here's the reframe. I learned this way of thinking about myself, and I'm learning how that came to be, and I'm unlearning it and creating a new dialogue about myself. And I would never say that to anybody else, and so I am not going to say that to myself. I am worthy of health. I am worthy of happiness. I am worthy of a peaceful relationship with food, regardless of my size or whatever I am doing with food. Whatever is going on with food is a behavior. It is not who I am. And if I have gained weight because of it, I can also lose weight because of it. So I'm going to support myself on this journey instead of attacking myself and calling myself names. Another one. "I've already messed up my diet. I might as well keep binging. I blew it. The day is ruined." Here's the reframe. Well, first of all, one slip up doesn't define the day. I just ate cake or whatever it is. I can make my next choice a healthy one. And instead of focusing on trying to eat perfectly, there is no eating perfectly. I'm just going to focus on why I ate that instead of focusing on what I ate and beating myself. I'm going to take my own side. So catch yourself when you're doing this negative, mean, horrible self-talk, whether it's about food, whether it's about your body, whether it's about your weight, and write down the self-defeating thoughts and consciously reframe them into more encouraging, supportive statements. Think about what you would say to a friend. If a friend said, "This is the number on the scale," you would not say, "Oh my God, you are so disgusting. I can't believe I don't even want to be your friend anymore. That number, oh, you're gross." No, a friend would never say that. You'd never say that to a friend. So why say it to yourself? How about you treat yourself as you would treat a friend? What a concept. And with practice, you can really retrain your inner dialogue to become your biggest cheerleader instead of your harshest critic. Remember, you learned how to relate to yourself. You learned this way of relating to yourself, both the way you speak to yourself and what you're doing with food. This is all learned behavior. You can unlearn what you learn and learn a new way. And that, unfortunately, is not like flipping a switch. It does take time. It does take practice. But think about it. You wouldn't sit down to a piano at a piano for the first time and expect to play Tchaikovsky. So don't expect yourself to suddenly, completely, radically change. Change is gradual, but then it is permanent. Because once you play Tchaikovsky, you kind of, and you keep playing, you kind of can't go back to when you didn't play Tchaikovsky, right? You know it. It's now what you know. It's now in your mind. So that's why I call this the binge cure. You really can cure yourself of binge eating and emotional eating and absolutely leave this in your rear view mirror. So I'm going to take a quick break for 2 minutes and come back, and we're going to talk more about how to deal with self-sabotage, and if I have time, some other questions from some other listeners. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Binge Cure with Dr. Nina. Have questions for Dr. Nina? Join her on the show at 866-472-5792. That's 866-472-5792. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to the Binge Cure with Dr. Nina. So today we are talking about turning sabotage into success when it comes to binge eating. And I was talking in the first half of the show about why we do that and really digging deep and understanding the sometimes, often, usually hidden reasons why you are sabotaging your weight loss or health efforts or your progress when it comes to putting binge eating in your past. And now I'm going to talk about, well, how do you deal with it? What do you do instead? First, most important, be compassionate. I'm always saying be curious, not critical, because when we're critical, we just feel bad. And then when we feel bad, we're more likely to go eat something to feel better. It is a vicious cycle. So be compassionate. We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes in all areas of our lives. So don't shame yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't focus on what you did, what you ate, none of that. Instead, focus on why. Because my new favorite expression, can you tell? It's not about willpower. It's about why power. Why? Why did you do it? Success is not, oh, I didn't eat the thing. Success has to be, oh, I might have eaten the thing, but this time, but I actually know why. And next time, maybe I'm going to try something different. So speak to yourself in a way that you would speak to a friend, with compassion, with curiosity, and don't focus on what you ate or what you weigh. Focus on how is that eating trying to, whatever you ate, it is a communication from you to you. What is that binge telling you about you? Your thoughts, your emotions, your fears, your wishes, all the things. And also acknowledge your progress. So many people tell me, well, I didn't binge, for a week, but then I binged yesterday. So now I'm back to square one. No, you are not back to square one. This is not a game of chutes and ladders. You didn't binge for a week. That means you didn't binge for a week. The binging again doesn't undo that week. So be proud of yourself. Hey, I had a week without binging. And ask yourself why, because we don't want to just focus on the behavior. We want to focus on, well, were you supporting yourself in a different way? Was a trigger not absent in your life, not there? Was, what was different? What helped you do that? Was it willpower? Not so good. Was it that you took your own side? Look at that. So there's no back to square one. Progress is progress. It doesn't get erased. You could just learn from it. Remember, it's not what you're eating, it's what's eating at you. So if you don't binge for a week, a month, a year, and then you do it again, don't think, oh, I blew it. I'm back to square one. I don't know where the square one is. Maybe it is a square on Monopoly, but not in the board game of life. So think about this old proverb that I love. It's called, you probably heard it, maybe not. And if you have, it's always something to hear again. And if you haven't, it's something you need to hear. And it's this: fall down 7 times, get up 8. It is normal to fall down and falter in any journey towards anything that we want to do. Anything that you set your mind on, you will fall. You will. What matters is that you get up. So on your journey to change your relationship with food, you will fall, you will falter, you will binge again, it will happen. When it happens, you just want to look at, okay, why? Why did that happen? Because that can help you understand yourself better. And the more that you do that, eventually the week becomes a month, becomes a year, becomes 5 years, becomes 10 years, and then you can't actually remember that you used to binge, and you can't even imagine doing it again. That's when you have the binge cure. And again, nobody sits down at a piano and plays Tchaikovsky, right? Or any instrument. You got to learn the chords. You got to learn where your fingers go with the keys or the strings or whatever it is that you're doing. You've got to learn something. Well, the Olympics are on right now in Paris. And, all of those Olympic athletes started somewhere. They didn't just get on a gymnastics mat and become human acrobats in the air, which they're from some other planet. I don't even know how they do that. It's stunning. Or they didn't just start swimming practically at the speed of light. They had to learn. They had to practice. They learned and they practiced and they practiced and they practiced. And that is true of anything that we want to learn in life. So when it comes to healing your relationship with food, you learned this way of coping, you can unlearn it and learn a new way. So that means you really have to acknowledge your progress. Right? I love the analogy I often make is with a marathon. You don't just decide to run a marathon and run 26.2 miles. And if you've run half the marathon, you're not going to say, I only ran half the marathon. The finish line is so far away. I'm not doing well at all. No, you're going to say, wow, I'm halfway there. I'm really proud of myself. So the same goes with other areas of your life. Be proud of all your progress, because that journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, and then another, and then another. So be proud of and acknowledge each one of those steps. And remember, strive for progress, not perfection. There is no perfection except in, geometry. There's no perfection when it comes to being a human being. When it comes to your life, there's no such thing as perfection. And thank God for that. Don't you think perfection would be boring? I do. So forget this perfection. Strive for progress and be proud of yourself along the way. If you head for the kitchen at night and you demolish everything in sight, don't beat yourself up. Ask yourself, okay, what was going on with me? Why did I do that? What am I trying to avoid? How am I coping? What is this telling me? It doesn't matter if you do it after the fact, because maybe the next time as you head into the kitchen, you're going to be like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. And you might still eat everything in sight. I don't care. At least you know. And then the next time or sometime in the future, you're going to be heading to the kitchen and you're going to go like, oh, I know exactly why I'm doing this. But you know what? I'm going to try something different. I'm going to talk to myself in a different way. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to identify what's going on. I'm going to express it to myself. I'm going to be there for myself, comfort myself, validate it, acknowledge and reassure myself. I'm going to feel better. And then you're going to do it. And now you're doing something different. And that's going to keep happening. And eventually, you don't think about heading to the kitchen because you've gotten so good at responding to yourself differently that food is breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. And by the way, the only food rule is, oh, it better be yummy. That's my one food rule. It has to be yummy. And that's it. Because you food no longer is your best friend and your worst enemy. It's one of the pleasures of life instead of a way of coping, distracting, numbing, soothing, all the things. Also, neutralize fear. Future fears can make you feel super anxious in the present. If you're worried about what might happen in the future, you're going to have anxiety in the present about a future that may not exist. And you cannot simultaneously scare yourself about the future and reassure yourself about the present. So often that leads to sabotage. It just becomes too much. And thinking about the future, whether it's in the near future, later today or tomorrow, or whatever it is, or the far future, that's what if thinking. And what if is fear about the future that makes you feel anxiety or fear in the present, and then you end up eating to calm yourself down, numb, escape, comfort, all the things. And what does that sound like? What if I gain weight after eating that pizza for lunch? What if I can't ever stop eating? What if I ask someone out and get rejected? What if I don't get that job? What if I'm in trouble for that mistake I made at work? What if? So what is the solution to what if thinking? The solution is what is. So whereas fear about the future is what if, facts about the present is what is. What is. So replace what if with what is. What is those are the facts. That's reality. That's what you know to be true. It's grounded in reality. So, yes, I ate the pizza, but I'm actually at the same weight I was this morning. I haven't suddenly, turned into a blueberry like the girl in Willy Wonka. Faruka salt, was that it? I'm working on a new approach to stop binge eating. That is true. That is true in the moment. So instead of what if I never can get over this? Wait a minute. I'm working really hard to make changes. Or, what if people don't like me? What if I get rejected? Well, I have so many people in my life who find me friendly and loving and lovable, and that's reality. When you think about what is actually happening, you'll be less likely to be anxious, worried, upset, which leads to binge eating. So you really want to change your your self-talk and the way that you scare yourself and the way that you respond to yourself. Let's see. I want to get to the other question. So that's really all that's how you avoid sabotage, right? Figure out what is binging doing for you? What is your hope and fear about change, and cultivate new ways of being with yourself. Very, very important. All right. So other questions. We have time for one more. This is a listener named Anna. She says, I just found your podcast. I'm a brand new listener. I know it's not about food, or now I know it's not about food, but I really still feel like I'm being triggered by food. How can I figure this out? All right. So Anna, and anyone else who can relate to her question, you got to identify your binge eating triggers. Anna thinks she's triggered by food. Most people think they are triggered by food. No, you're triggered by a situation, an emotion, a thought, something within. That's the trigger, and eating is the solution. So you got to really look at what is triggering you to turn to food. In my experience as a psychoanalyst specializing in eating disorders, particularly binge eating disorder, I know it is a way of coping with difficult emotions or situations. It is not about food. It is not what you're eating that is the problem or the trigger. It's what's eating at you. So common triggers are being stressed and overwhelmed, lonely, which is often mistaken as bored, emptiness, something missing in your life, which we often mistake as boredom, anxiety, depression, restrictive dieting can be a trigger because the experience of deprivation or the expectation, the anticipation of deprivation can make you want something more, right? If you're told you can't have something, what do you don't think of a pink penguin. What just jumped into your mind? A pink penguin, right? When we're told we can't have something, we want it more. Feeling out of control in other areas of your life that gets displaced into food. It is easier to focus on your relationship with food and how out of control you feel with food than recognize that there are forces in your life that you do not have control over, and that gets really hard. Easier to focus on what you can ostensibly control. Relationship conflicts. Easier to be mad at yourself than with someone else, or focus on food or think about food than be upset with someone in your life. Work pressure, all of these reasons, all of these situations that we encounter in our lives that are difficult, or someone being sick in our lives, or something's going on that's troubling, upsetting, difficult. Those are the triggers. So, take a moment and reflect on your patterns. When do you most often turn to food? What emotions or situations tend to precede a binge? Are you, what are you thinking about? What are you feeling? Keep a journal to track those triggers. Think about what time of day it is. What was just going on before you went to the kitchen? What's going on with you? Becoming aware of your specific triggers is the key to addressing them more directly. Now, often we don't know what our triggers are. We can't put it together. That is why I created the food mood formula to help people who have no idea or cannot correlate what's going on in their lives with why they're wanting to binge. And that is because binging or emotional eating, it is such a quick coping strategy that often our triggers don't even reach our emotional awareness. They don't even we stay, they say, hidden from our minds. We don't even know we're being triggered. So very quickly, here's the food mood formula. And you use this when you're turning to food and think that, oh no, nothing's triggering me, but I have to go to the kitchen and demolish it. So the food mood formula only applies to those situations when you're feeling a pull towards food to change the way you emotionally feel. It's not about like, well, I had ice cream for dessert, so I must need comfort. No, that's just called dessert. But if it's, oh, I just couldn't eat enough ice cream and I couldn't have enough of it, I was eating it really fast and I felt such shame and I totally binged on it, that's what the food and mood formula is. So here it is. And if you find yourself being drawn to like ice cream, smooth and creamy, that is an indication that you need comfort. So you've got to cultivate ways of comforting yourself that don't include eating. Filling foods, think cake, muffins, pasta, pizza, burgers, anything that kind of takes up space within you, that's associated with loneliness or emptiness. So you might be eating to symbolically fill a void. And if that is the case, ask yourself, what are the empty spaces in your life? What is it that is missing from your life? This is hard to do. It's easier to focus on being on a diet than it is to ask yourself this question. But these are the questions that are going to lead you to liberation and really putting this in your rearview mirror, putting an end to binge eating forever. What are the empty spaces? Because once you identify those and find new ways to fill those holes in your life, in your soul, you don't need food for that purpose. Then there's crunchy foods. Chips, pretzels, crackers, anything that makes us bite down hard, that is associated with forms of anger. So and by the way, many women say, well, I'm not angry. I'm not an angry person. No, but you are a person who is probably angry because anger is just a reaction to a situation. So you might be frustrated, annoyed, irritated, pissed off, mad, enraged. Those are all forms of anger. And what we have a tendency to do is turn that against ourselves. Oh, no, I'm not mad at that person who upset me. I'm mad at myself because I can't believe I ate this or that. I can't believe how much I weigh. I'm mad at myself. So anger is just a reaction to a situation. It is not a character flaw. And the expression of anger, you don't have to talk to the person that's upsetting you. Sometimes that is not the best course of action. You do have to express it. And anger doesn't mean screaming and yelling and throwing things. It just means expressing it. Ugh, I'm so pissed. Whether it's a journal, whether it's talking to a friend or a loved one, someone could really hear you. So if you find yourself turning to food, consider, which of those categories are you drawn to? We usually have one main one. A lot of people say, I eat everything, but there's usually one main food that is your number one. So use the food mood formula to ascertain what's going on within you. What is it that is the trigger? It's, need for comfort, the emptiness, the frustration, irritation, anger, whatever. And also, as far as chocolate goes, that chocolate fits the formula because some chocolates have creamy centers, smooth and creamy. Some chocolates have nuts, crunchy, and dark chocolate is crunchy. So it fits the formula. But if you like, for example, Skittles or something that is candy, but it's not one of the things in the formula, then that is associated with a need for sweetness, but not the sweetness we find in sugar, the sweetness in life that you might be missing, the sweetness of connection, affection, fulfillment, whatever it is that you are missing, that sweetness of life. So you got to find a way to bring more sweetness into your life. So, Anna, that is how you identify what your triggers are. Because you are not triggered by food. You are triggered by some situation or emotion or situation that's causing thought, which causes emotions, and eating is your solution to that trigger. You are not being triggered by food. So I hope this helped. And now you know that if you're sabotaging yourself, there's always a reason. And I've given you strategies on how to deal with it. If you think you're triggered by food, now you know better. I've given you a formula to help you figure out what's really eating at you. And that is our show for today. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Binge Cure with Dr. Nina. And if you want a deeper dive into this topic, be sure to get your copy of my best-selling book, The Binge Cure, 7 Steps to Outsmart Emotional Eating. It is available on Amazon in all formats, including audio, if you want me to read it to you. So stay curious, not critical. I will see you next week. Bye for now.
All clear. Great.